What is up? Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And today I have a super special guest, Coach Laura. We met on Facebook in a forum. Her and I, well, more so her now. I've kind of dropped off there recently, but we answer most people's questions, I'd say for the most part, the right way. There's some bad information out there in that forum. If you know, you know. If you don't, that's okay. But we became friends online. She's an awesome coach, and she's honestly my go-to with nutrition questions. Like, I think she's probably the GOAT of nutrition just in general, like doing things the right way, cutting, bulking, finding your actual maintenance range. So I wanted to have her on to talk about bulking because I think most women should probably be in a bulk, and most women have never done that before. So I just thought it'd be fun to have her on, ask her questions, and provide some more learnings and maybe paradigm shifts.
Well, Emma, thank you so much for having me. I am stoked to be here. And also, y'all, this is our first time actually talking in person. We've sent lots of voice memos back and forth.
Oh,
we've messaged quite a bit. And I was like,
true.
we're on the phone for the first time together. So that's kind of like, it's a next level friendship unlock right here. So call it a win live on a podcast.
I didn't even think about that. That's true. Like, we have never been on a call before.
Yes. But voice memos are like a call that are just disjointed. So
That's true. True.
Well, I'm super stoked to be here. Just give you guys a quick background about myself. I officially became a nutrition coach in 2020 during lots of upheaval with obviously what was going on. But my nutrition journey actually started in college when I got celiac disease, or a celiac issue like gluten intolerance, dairy intolerance, my senior year of high school. And I went through a lot of college doing a lot of troubleshooting on my own while I was trying to figure out what was going on. And that time, people didn't talk about gluten. People didn't really talk about those issues. So I tried every diet under the sun to try and fix my gut issues, and eventually figured it out between my sophomore and junior year. But at that point, I was like very deep in my degree and a year away from graduating. So there was no chance in changing, going from like packaging engineering to nutrition, because I looked into it and I was like, this is too expensive. I don't need to be in school for another 3 years changing my major this late in the game. And so I just always kept it as a side S thing. So from like, got my NASM CPT back in 2014, did a lot of fun stuff on the side, but the pandemic really pushed me to go from self-study to helping other people, as I was looking for like different ways to get out, as my job was like kind of changing over during a lot of the turmoil then. And so since then, I have worked for a number of like fitness companies and then starting my own. So I started Elevated Pursuit Nutrition and later Practical Athlete on the programming side. And my goal has always been, how do we help you learn the most about yourself and then learn how to navigate both maintenance, cutting, build, and performance maintenance phases? Because there's a lot of bad information out there, as Emma and I are constantly trying to combat out in the space. And so providing just evidence-based learning how your body works and using that data to make the decisions, to take the emotion out of it. We coach a lot of women here, and there's a lot of emotion tied to these phases. And so my goal here, and I know Emma's goal here, is to help you guys understand what's going on so you can take the emotion out of navigating phases.
Yes, that is the key, right? So that's crazy. That's right. So actually, originally we connected because we both used to be engineers of some type. And that's, so when senior year, you were like actually interested in trying to switch majors, like
fully? Oh yeah, I looked at how many credit hours I'd need to switch from like packaging, engineering, and design to nutrition and dietetics. And I was like, another 4 years of school. And I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. So I took a couple like classes and participated in some of the extra labs I could fit in, but I was like, I'm not gonna be here for 4 more years. So
yeah, that's a lot. I went to I did a brief stint of grad school, and I was like, why did I do this after, 22 plus years of school or whatever? So makes sense. And honestly, with nutrition coaching in general, like just coaching people is the best way to learn, and through yourself, like self experimentation, which I'm sure you did a lot of with so how did you navigate like celiac disease back
So
then?
I'll clarify one thing. I said celiac disease. I am not confirmed. I realized I said that, and then I was trying to clear that.
Okay.
I just have really horrific reactions when I eat gluten, and
Oh.
one clarification there. But in the test at the time when they're like, okay, we can test you, but you have to eat gluten for 3 weeks in order for us to like go then do a microscopy. And I'm like, no, no, thank you. I don't want to do that after I figured it out. But honestly, it was Rob Wolf and the paleo diet. So when I had gone through, I'd been vegan, which was awful because I ate a lot of grains.
Sure.
So there's a number of like iterations. And then right around then was when CrossFit was getting very hyped up to like late college. And I was like, oh, let me try this. Nothing else has worked. And it was like a night and day differential. Like 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh, I don't have this horrible nausea. I don't have stomach pains, obvious cramps. Like everything is getting much, much better. And I tied it back to, okay, tried gluten again. I was like, oh, no. That is absolutely the issue, is that the wheat products and I do not agree at all.
Well, that's good that you know that, because I think, well, I don't want to say it's common, but there are like quite a few people out there that probably just that in general would help them feel better. I noticed personally too, like I don't have any diagnosed anything, but when I just don't have it, I just digestively feel better. I have less bloating, less brain fog. Um, so that's cool that you figured that out earlier than later.
Yeah, I mean, it took a good 3 years, like post, like so I had a traumatic softball accident in my senior year of high school where I took a softball to the face, blew out my eye socket, my cheekbones. This is all like reconstructed here.
Wow.
And then had my like jaw, they had to go in through my jaw. So I had a liquid jaw essentially wired shut I had to do a liquid diet for a few months or a few weeks.
Man.
Honestly, it's a very hazy period of time in my history, but they had a liquid diet for quite a while coming in there. And then when I started reintroducing food was when I noticed all those gut issues. And so that was like from 18 to 21-ish of like just trying to navigate like things eating aren't the same way. I put on probably like, I went from like 120 pounds, which was like super skeletal post injury, to like 160 over the course of my freshman year, which was a big weight swing. Like I went from very, very under muscle post the injury to gaining a lot of body fat and a bit of muscle, I do think, in that amount of time frame. And I'm like, this can't, like, nothing is right. Something is wrong. How do I fix this? Because I'm not even drinking that much. I'm playing rugby. I'm getting like 20,000 steps a day. Like I am doing a lot of stuff right now. Like the math doesn't math. It can't just be this freshman 60 or 40 or whatever. Like there had to be something else going on. So in that time frame, going through and navigating all those pieces was really what opened my eyes and going, okay, like, oh wow, if this food has this much of an impact on my life, that means all these other things that we see, like there is that connection to where that food is when it comes to digestive, when it comes to like mental health, when it comes to physical health, when it comes to joint health. Like there's a massive connection there. And my goal is always like, hey, I've gone and walked this path before. How do we help you avoid these pitfalls? How do I help you avoid the pitfalls that I've learned from other clients when we're coming through these stages as well?
Yeah, that's crazy. How did you get into tracking? Was that part of your journey as well? And those, like from freshman year to senior year, did you start that then?
Yeah, I started definitely. I remember getting my first smartphone after like the Nokia brick was somewhere like freshman year of college, and then apps came out. Like there were some apps, they weren't like, it was like the Sidekick still. So I feel like I downloaded MyFitnessPal in 2012 or 2013-ish. I would have to go back to 2011 maybe. And stopped. And then somewhere around like 2015 post-graduation, I was a lot more consistent tracking and learning about the things because I was like, okay, well, I know I got to eat protein. And as a type A engineer, I'm big on data gathering of all points. So I've got spreadsheets dating back pretty much like a decade of all just random measurements or data points here and there. But learning how to understand what's going into food things, because in the same vein, I actually helped my husband discover he has like a very significant corn intolerance.
Oh.
So it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, learning to track was like a helpful data gathering tool. Like, okay, if we're having an issue, like what did we eat in the last 72 hours? Why, which of these things is not like the other? Which of these things might have caused the issue? And so that has been an instrumental tool, not just in navigating body composition, but in navigating how those foods interact with your body as well.
Yeah, it's crucial. And I have some clients that are like super type A, and they're great because they do all of that. Like they track everything. And I usually have to pull them back. Like you can have an untracked meal here and there. Like you don't have to worry about this thing. But they're a lot easier to coach because I have that data and we can look at their biofeedback. Like, okay, your digestion changed. What changed over the past like couple days? Like, what did you eat that caused this upset? Did you travel? Did you have any extra stressors in your life that could have contributed to that? But if you don't have the data, then it's tough because recall for humans who don't care about nutrition of the nutrition that they ate is like not great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's tough. And I mean, even still, like I'll look back and be, oh, I forgot to, I eat the same breakfast every morning. I have for like my breakfast has been the same for about 5 years, plus or minus. And even still, because I occasionally make my own like gluten-free loaf bread, and I am not good at cutting slices of bread. Okay. Absolutely terrible. Like if you look at my like bread slices that I've like sliced up, some are like this thick, so a 1/4 inch thick, some are like an inch thick. So I have to weigh it every morning because the difference is pretty like 100-calorie difference depending on how I cut my slices. And if I don't do that as I'm like or I don't write in my Chronometer app, which is my preferred app of choice, but if I don't write in Chronometer at 8 a.m., oh, it was 100 grams of the gluten-free bread instead of 70 like yesterday, I will have forgotten that by lunchtime. So like the people, when somebody tells me, oh yeah, I had exactly 75 grams of berries at breakfast, I'm like, really? Because I don't remember how many grams of berries I had at breakfast. Like that data point went into my head, into the app, and immediately disappeared. So recall posts. And it's one of those things I always tell people like, hey, if our tracking isn't that great, then we have to understand that we have a greater tolerance for your expectation. So if we are in, like I can think about a client right now who wants to go into fat loss phase, and this client had a real big struggle. Last week, she's like, my weight is all over the place. Something's gone wrong. And this is a newer client. So we're working through some troubleshooting here. And I look at her food logs. I'm like, hey, like you have kind of generic pasta salad, 1 cup. And I'm like, what pasta salad is this? And she's like, oh, my daughter made this recipe. It's like kind of creamy, has bow tie pasta, whatever in there. I'm like, okay, well, this generic entry you chose has 150 calories per cup. And let's just go put in Kroger, Kroger deli pasta salad. 1 cup is 800 calories. You had 2 cups a day for the last 4 days. So I think while you tracked 1,700 calories and you're using cup measurements, if we had used a food scale and used a little bit more of an accurate entry, you would show that you tracked 3,000 to 3,200 calories a day. And so when you're trying to navigate precise phases in nutrition and you're wondering why things are going awry, usually tracking is the first place to look before we try to make an adjustment. It's like, hey, like, is there something, are we guesstimating, or are we tracking at the end of the day when maybe we need to be tracking at the beginning of the day? Is there some like pre-logging we can do here? Because 90, 80% of the time, that's usually where it can get cleaned up before we have to make an adjustment.
Yep. Yeah, agree. A lot of my clients, we work on pre-logging. It's so beneficial. People don't understand because then like at the end of the day, you just forget what you ate, or maybe you forgot to weigh, or, anyway, yeah, it's most of the time that is the case. And then when you do that, you're like, oh, I'm not eating 1,000 calories a day and not losing weight. I'm just not tracking things properly.
Correct. And it's easy to do, guys. Like the thing is, I totally get it. And empathize, especially if this is something new to you, it's a learned skill to identify, oh, the generic ham and cheese croissant isn't ham, cheese, and egg croissant isn't 300 calories. Like the one that I'm getting from the grocery store or the deli down the street is probably twice the size. But you don't know that until you know that. And so part of our goal here as coaches is to help guide you in understanding how that difference can be. And so The same way that whether it's like, okay, let's try and break it down into its most basic parts. And if that's a skill that we want to teach you so that you understand, oh, wow, this is quite a bit more calorically dense. I can think of another male client who went to Freddy's Frozen Custards, which I don't know if you're familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Okay,
we have them here.
So it's a fast food restaurant for those of you guys who don't have it, and he had put in like a generic cheeseburger entry for 300 calories and generic restaurant fries, and I was like, oh, did you make like fries and burger at home? He's like, oh no, I went to Freddy's, and I was like, oh. I was like, why don't we just go put the Freddy's entry in? He's like, yeah, I thought I looked for it, but I couldn't quite find the one. I was like, well, we'll just get close enough. We'll get the Freddy's bacon cheeseburger instead of your random bacon cheeseburger. It was like a 2,000 calorie delta. And I was like, that's why you're not feeling so great today, is because your dinner was 2,000 calories and you got a milkshake. So like, but when you don't know, it's hard to identify. And that's like, guys, like if you can start getting to track when you're at home and testing these things, like using your food scale, and you go, okay, well, this is what it looks like at home. It'll be easier for you to identify when you're out and about what that looks like versus just plug and playing a generic entry.
Yes, yeah. I for years was tracking food, quote unquote, and I was not using a food scale. And I underestimated what a restaurant portion would have of oils or calories or whatever. And when you start using a food scale and at home and you're like actually measuring the portions, you'll be shocked. The biggest shock for me was peanut butter. I feel like that's a big one. I was using like 4 tablespoons every morning.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like 600 or maybe 400 calories. Maybe.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, a lot. So when think you're having 1 tablespoon, that's like 4x the difference. And then imagine like at home, you're not adding extra stuff to the food. When you go to a restaurant, it's going to be quite a bit of a difference because they don't really care about your fitness goals. They want the food to taste good. So usually more sauce, more oils, more sugar in the sauces and whatnot. So yeah, it's eye-opening though. Like, and again, if you don't know, you don't know. So it's okay, but that's our job, is to help you guys and educate you that there is a big difference, and teaching you without judgment how to actually learn and understand the differences, I guess.
Yes, exactly. And I think the easiest rule of thumb that we can kind of take away before you pivot to the next topic is, guys, if you're learning how to track here, if you're estimating a restaurant, I tell my clients, like, the plate that sits in front of you is probably 800, 1,200 calories. So unless you're making massive adjustments or you're not eating what's on your plate, if your off the cuff estimate is 600, probably try again or send me a photo, because 800, 1,200 is usually average for most American restaurant portion sizes. And if you're at the Cheesecake Factory, put that up to like 600.
Yeah, minimum. Maybe 2,000. Yeah, and use Chronometer. Also, best tracking app. I was using something else, but it just gives you so much more information on the foods that you're eating. So, and it's free. So, highly recommend.
Yes. That's news to me. I did not know Emma has made the switch over. So I'm gonna say I influenced her because she's been following on my Chronometer posts.
You did, and so did my coach, because my coach was like, "You have to use it." And I'm like, okay. Because when you have all the recipes saved and your tracking app, making the switch is quite a bit challenging, but it is much better.
Yes. Once you get everything loaded in there, it's a breeze.
Yep. So now, the topic of the hour: how to actually bulk properly.
The real question.
The real question. Should you add 1,000 calories to your baseline?
Not only should you not add 1,000 calories, you shouldn't add 500 calories. In fact,
what? You
probably even shouldn't add 300 calories in a build.
That's shocking.
Yeah. I always start out with the call going, how many Oreos do you think you need to add to get into a surplus?
I don't know. I haven't had an Oreo in a long time, to be be honest. So I'm not sure. Maybe it's 4. Is that
1.5 Oreos is what it takes to start a surplus. Yeah. So, generally speaking, and I'm going to give some broad spectrum, but ladies, men, you're listening. We have a lot of really good research out here about what optimal rates of gain are for women. And what has discouraged women from building for so long is they hear these oh, go mad, go drink a gallon of milk a day. You need to eat 500 calories. You need to do all this crazy, more calories this day, no calories that day, fasting day, low carb day. And it makes it really intimidating, and creating rules around this, or saying you have to have this many more calories, sets them up for failure. And we go, okay, hey, building muscle for women, for most women who are at least intermediate. So when you are a beginner to training, you are going to build muscle pretty much as long as you're not in a 1,000-calorie deficit. You are sending the stimulus for the very first time that it's time to build muscle. And as those newbie gains come on in the first 6 months, as long as you have a little bit of protein and some calories in the system, you're likely going to build some muscle. But after that, it takes a little bit more work. And so what I will consider optimal for many clients is a roughly 0.2 to 0.5 rate of gain per week. What that kind of backs into, it's you're roughly looking to gain about a percent of your body weight per month. There's a little bit of nuance there, but for most women, if you're between 0.2 and 0.5 consistently, you're in a great spot. 0.2 to 0.5, that's 100 to a 250 calorie surplus. That's it. So 1.5 Oreos is 90 calories.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Backing into our Oreo discussion. So the thing is, though, what do we know about all of our female clients is most of them come to us with this history of not eating enough. So when we're talking about being a surplus, we're talking about being above your top end of maintenance. So everybody has a maintenance range. You guys have done a TDE calculator and you're like, no, my maintenance is 2,125 calories. And no, it's a range. Some people's is a small range. I do have clients who's maintenance range, okay, well, it's 2,100, 2,150. And if they have a really, really tight one, and there are clients who have a 200 to 300 calorie maintenance range, we're okay, as long as I'm between 2,000 and 2,300, I'm maintaining. So kind of step one is you got to figure out what your maintenance is. But in order to be in a surplus, you have to eat that, 100 calories more a day every day. And we have to get above that top end of maintenance. So for that client whose top end of maintenance is 250, they need to eat 2,250 every single day without fail. So we'll set a range, because I think in my practice, I think it's easier to have a range to shoot for. So in this case, I'd say, hey, okay, you have to get over 2,250. And as long as you're between 2,250 and 2,350, we're going to be in the sweet spot for this muscle building range. And that's our goal, is that you are eating that 100 to 200 calories above your surplus, above your top end of maintenance for months. And that sounds like a very scary thing. But when you break it out and you're okay, if I'm only gaining, again, 0.2 to 0.4, so 0.8 to 1.2 pounds, 1.6 pounds per month. 5-month build, you are maybe gaining 5 pounds. And what do we know what the research says when we back into these numbers? So there's a new meta out by Stronger by Science last October, so about a year old. But it helped us for that range I just kind of stated. And when I say please reference back to Stronger by Science, I can send Emma the link to put in the show notes here, just so that the percentages, I would apply the percentages to you, because it changes based on where your current body size is. I'm giving you rough numbers, but I say if you're between 130 and 180 pounds, 0.2 to 0.5 is a good range to shoot for. So that is a conservative rate of gain, and that means that the majority of the mass you're gaining is lean tissue. So I just said we're going to gain 5 pounds in 5 months. Well, would you feel a lot better about it if 2.5 to about 4.5 of those pounds is lean tissue?
Yeah, and so most, that is the best way to do it, very slow and small changes, because then you minimize the fat gain, and then you've built your resting metabolic rate, you've built more muscle tissue, so your body has a higher maintenance calories now. And so then when you go into a cut to reveal what you've built, you only have a couple pounds to lose because you didn't put on that much body fat. And oftentimes a lot of the I guess bulking information comes from fit bros or bodybuilder style people, or people who struggle to put on weight because they probably have a really large maintenance range. They're very active, they're young, and they're men. So they probably do need to eat a lot more. Just their resting metabolic rate is a lot larger than most women's, and most women who have dieted for decades, usually those are, the people that come to coaches because they've struggled. I struggled too, so that's why I coach. But they don't have a high maintenance calories because they never built any muscle tissue. They were just always trying to lose weight, and they've probably lost a lot of their muscle mass as well. So that's why they struggle. And anyway, that's why I wanted to have you on, because you're the expert here. This is not something I've done properly ever for myself. And I think, so I've done way too much, like put on too much weight. And so I have a lot of muscle mass because I was an athlete and I've trained for decades. But whenever I was in a quote unquote build, I put on so much body fat, it was like super uncomfortable. And then it's like you have to go into a big cut to reveal the work that you've done. And anyway, most women have body image issues. They are scared to add more calories to their diet. But really, that's probably what most women need, honestly. So anyway, when would you say it would be appropriate for somebody to go into a bulk?
So I actually think that that everybody needs to do it once. And the way I say is, even if you guys have a significant amount of weight to lose, like you sign up with Emma and you're like, Emma, I have to lose 50 pounds. And you're like, great, that's like a 2 to 3 year goal. And we cannot diet for 2 to 3 years straight. So what are we going to do to optimize that? And if we are in a deficit, you are going to lose 10 to 50. Assuming your strength training and your protein is high in a deficit, you're going to lose 10 to 50% of that weight. You're going to lose is lean tissue. So what we want to do, because she just talked about a build is going to help you have a better fat loss phase afterwards because we're rebuilding it. We want to break up our fat loss phases with a muscle building phase. So we're going to be super conservative, but the best thing that you can do to have a better fat loss phase is when you are in your off season of dieting, is that we refine that top end of maintenance of yours and build for like 12 weeks, even if it's just 12 weeks and you're using that to break up your fat loss phases. So the reason why I really say this is because we can spend that 12 weeks, you're going to regain any lost tissue in that deficit real quick. You put on some lean tissue, and then you resensitize your body to fat loss going into it. And so that in and of itself is the one thing that I think is a big miss, because I get a lot of clients like, I can't possibly add another ounce of body fat to my body. I'm like, I hear you, but you've also been chasing this fat loss goal for so long. And it's not that you haven't dieted and lost weight, but we have struggled to maintain our weight afterwards. And I think the one thing that really teaches people how to consistently is when you have to stuff food in your face for 7 days a week for months on end.
Yes.
So when you have to figure out, like, if you, and I just said a build is only 1.5 Oreos more than a top end of maintenance. So if you figure out an eating pattern where like, this is what it takes to eat consistently at this exact same calorie number for months on end, because I'm trying to build as much muscle as possible and gain as little fat as possible, then you also know how to figure out how to do maintenance. You just go, I need to do that, but 100 calories left. My clients who do a build, then a fat loss phase, go, oh wow, maintenance is 1,000 times easier than I ever thought it was, because I actually practiced what it was like to eat enough every day. And so that's why I recommend it for all women. Now, granted, we do have clients who do have 50 to 100 pounds to lose, and I go, cool. I want you to do this we come out of between our fat loss phases. We're going to do a short build after you've done your first one, and we're just going to use this to resensitize your body for future fat loss phases. Because also, guys, it's the holidays. I don't know when Emma's going to release this episode, but I assume it's September now. So sometime September, October. What are you going to be doing the next 3 months? Like, are you really going to, like white knuckle through a fat loss phase and get to Thanksgiving and then YOLO? Like, that is not setting up for success. Like, the one thing that we pretty much have all of our clients across the board are in a build through the October, November, December into like the first week of January, because we're reducing the friction in your life. You're like, hey, I know everybody. We've got a couple hundred clients across my team of coaches. Like, we're going to have probably 300 clients already fat loss phase in January, February. But you know what? They are all in a build right now, or they're in a performance phase, or they've got something going on, because that's going to set them up for better success and less friction. Like, you don't want to be turning down every single holiday party, the fall bake sales, the Thanksgiving, bringing your lunch to Thanksgiving, like dinner. Like, that's ridiculous. So everybody who is not in a fat loss phase should probably be spending some time building each year, just to, one, regain what you lost in the fat loss phase, and two, rebuild that lean tissue or build some more, so that when you do have stuff when you go through a deficit thinking you're going to reveal stuff, that you actually have the lean tissue to reveal.
Yes, totally agree. The holiday season is also the absolute best time to be in a build, or even just maintenance, like maintaining what you've got. Because like you were saying, like trying to be in a cut at Thanksgiving, that sucks. Like, that's terrible. Like, I've thankfully I don't think I've ever done that. But I've seen like family members like during the holidays are like, yeah, I'm like trying to lose weight. I'm like, that sucks. I'm gonna get another piece of pie, and I'll have your piece for you. But yeah, it's and this is the perfect season. Usually, too, it's funny though, because now people are more ready to sign on to coaching because their kids are back in school. They have more structure in their life. And a lot of people are wanting to lose body fat. But I don't think they think big picture. So how do you help like clients realize like this is going to set you up for success long term?
So generally speaking, if I have clients heading up right now, at this kind of end of the year, I'm like, cool, I hear that you have goals, and I actually want this to be the first time you succeed them. I understand you want fat loss, but you've told me that you've gained and lost the same 15 pounds 5 or 6 times. Why don't we figure out how we actually maintain right now? And if you're going to maintain, you might as well find what your top end of maintenance is. And guys, inside secret here, if you have to find your top end of maintenance, you actually have to start a build. Because as you increase calories to test how many can I eat on, eventually you're going to get to a number where you're like, oh, I am gaining consecutively for 3 weeks, just a little bit. Again, we're only adding 100 calories here. And you go, okay, well, at this point, we have a crossroads. We be like, oh, I've found my top end of maintenance. It was 100 calories ago. But it feels pretty good over here. Do we stay in a build? Do we pull back? Like, I do leave that up to them, but I also go, hey, like, you've told me, we just walked through your entire history of dieting, and I want you to figure this out. Like, I need you to figure out, how do I eat consecutively? And if you figure this out now, and we start a fat loss phase mid-January, you are going to already have the tools to do this. What I don't want to have happen is we go diet until the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And then we repeat the same pattern of behavior that we had this leading up to this. And there's a process called collateral fattening when you surplus in a deficit, which also happens in the couple weeks post-deficit too. So imagine you dieted all the way up to a cruise and you were really, really tight. And then the week of the cruise, you're like, okay, I'm back at maintenance. I can eat whatever I want. And you're like, I come back from the cruise and like, why am I not maintaining that? Some of it's water, some of it's salt, but there is definitely some body fat regain that happens because you were just in a deficit for 12 weeks. Your body, you're mentally decided that you're back at maintenance. Your body is like, no. This girl has not fed me. And now there's a surplus of calories. I don't know when my next calorie is going to come in. I'm going to hold on to a lot of this as body fat because I am not certain if we're actually at maintenance yet. And so that process, literally called collateral fattening, is what has set up so many women for yo-yoing. And we go back and be like, well, how do I somehow lose 15 pounds and gain 5 pounds back a month later? And it's because we have not set ourselves up for success when learning how to do maintenance. And so as clients are coming in this, I'm like, cool, like we are, and I have very adamantly stated this across our social media. You get an email about it when you sign up for our email list. We're not a fat loss first company. And so I know that I frankly probably have lost out on more clients than I could count. Some I've told to their face that, hey, look, if you're signing up with me, the same 15-pound person, We did a consult probably a year ago, and I was like, hey, I hear you, but like, you just told me that you have regained the same 15 pounds. She's like, well, I just need to get there, and then we'll figure out maintenance. Guys, I'm gonna be honest, it never works. Like, you're gonna regain the 15 pounds, we'll figure out maintenance, and then we have to do fat loss again. I'm like, you're gonna pay me longer, and I will have done a disservice to you because like we didn't get to your goals. And like, if you are hiring me and paying me a lot of money per month to help you, I'm going to make sure you do this right. If you aren't committed to even doing that, then I don't think this relationship is going to work because you're not bought in on the philosophy, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's a struggle too. I don't so some of my clients, like, we don't do like necessarily like bulk or cut. Well, there is like I sell fat loss, so like, yes, there's like a fat loss phase. But the first like 3 months, usually it's just establishing like those baseline habits and getting their metabolism back to a healthy place. And yeah, like finding their top end of maintenance. And oftentimes like they hate that part. But like one of my clients recently, he was like, yeah, now I'm actually in a fat loss phase. And like 25 pounds came off like really easily because I spent like 4 months like at the top end of maintenance, not doing CrossFit every day, actually strength training with proper rest and periodization and rest periods. And he wants to bulk now, which is like kind of cool. I'm like, sweet. Yes. He's like, what's next? What can we do next? And I'm like, there's a lot of things. I'm excited. But it's because he trusted the process and he did that. I have a lot of clients that when, like, again, I lose out on a lot of them because I'm like, yeah, this is not a quick fix. We're not going to cut your calories right away. Usually you don't even know how many calories you are eating, so we need to learn how to do that properly. But then after those 3 months, some people are like, you know what, like, this is a lot, or they don't trust it, and then it takes way longer than the 3 months that it should because they keep regressing back to those old behaviors and patterns. So I need to do a better job of setting my floor, so to speak, with clients. But yeah, it's really cool when someone actually does that because then they actually can maintain it. So yeah, this client was like, he's tried all the diets, and he said he's like, I think mid 40s, and he's like, I haven't been below 200 pounds since I was 21, and it's easy because he tried to bulk. I think people don't realize that, like, yeah, it can be uncomfortable. You just did a post about bloating with bulking and how to mitigate that, and that was actually really great because I have to eat a lot of carbs right now. So I was using that. Been adding maple syrup to my water intra-workout, and it actually tastes really good. So if you're struggling with your carbs, try that out. But I don't remember what I was saying. But it's fun to eat more, and most people should do that because even though it's painful during the process, once you actually, as we've been talking about, go into a fat loss phase, it's easy, and then you can maintain it, and you know what your top end of maintenance is to go back to. You're not like guessing. Anyway.
Yeah, no, it is. It's hard. It's a hard sell, guys, and I get it. Like, it is the scariest thing in the world to be like, I have been chasing the scale to go down for months on end, or years and years, decades, and you are telling me that the thing I need to do to have the scale go down is the scale go up. Like, that is a hard concept to wrap your brain around. And I think the other thing that can make it really hard is you might go through a build. And if you're in my camp of client who has 30 pounds to lose, but isn't dieting in the holidays, you're like, I don't see what changed. Like, I just did a 5-month build. I gained, or I built through the holidays and I gained 5 pounds, and like, the photos don't show the thing. And that's the hard part to trust. So like, we'll be doing photos and like, actually we'll do photos, but like, hey, photos only got different. If we gain 5 pounds and the photos look vastly different, then we'd know for sure the build wasn't working. But if we look at that and we go, the circumference measurements, well, the circumference measurements didn't really change, or maybe they just went up in your arms and legs, but down or stayed the same in your waist. Like, hey, cool. We know we're adding tissue. It's beneath the visible surface right now. And that's a hard concept to understand. But when you go, hey, where's your biofeedback? You're sleeping better. You're setting PRs in the gym. Your energy is better. You are less of an angry person at work and at home, and you're less like snappy at your spouse or your kids. Like all those things are biofeedback to go, oh wow. Like I remember I had a client tell me 2 months ago, she's like, I can't remember the amount of time that I laughed multiple days in a row. Like it has been years. She's like, I kind of forgot what like that kind of joy felt like, because she has been under eating for so long that she's like, oh wow, I kind of forgot what that was like. And I go, think about biofeedback things, like part of when you are so carb depleted, your body doesn't have the resources to manage stress. It doesn't have the resources to kind of deal with joy. Like the biggest reason that I will have clients pull out of a deficit, usually around like week 10 to 16-ish, is they'll be like, I am kind of a raging bee at home. And if I snap on my kids one more time, like this is going to be a big problem. And I need to be a nicer person. And the only way to be nicer is to have more carbs. And I'm like, there you go. You just hit a guardrail. We're going to call it a win. We did 10 weeks and we will table this for the next go round, because we don't want to be hitting those kinds of things. And it's hard, especially as busy professionals, we don't have unlimited resources to spend all the time in the day to also sleep and kind of do other things. So we plan those guardrails around our build and fat loss phases so that we know when time is to pull out. So in Emma's case, when she said the only bulk she did was essentially she did a dreamer bulk here. So a dreamer bulk is when you just add oodles of calories and you're like, I'm just going to go for it. And unfortunately, so kind of referencing some of the numbers I said earlier back, we only have a finite amount of muscle we can build per week. So like that research I quoted earlier for women, that's roughly 0.1 to 0.25 pounds of muscle per week. If we are gaining more than that, or 0.15, kind of really depends on where you're at. If we're gaining more than that, we are likely just gaining additional body fat. And so if we have that finite amount of muscle that we can build, our goal is to just build that amount. And part of that too, and I think the one thing we haven't touched on yet is that for women, especially guys, you can't look at this as a week to week basis. I'm going to tell you, I'm in a surplus right now. There's not a single week of the last 6 surpluses I've done where it's been exactly 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. There are weeks where it's like, 1.6 week over week. And then it'll be negative 0.5. Because as females, we have a lot of water fluctuations. So you, as a requirement, if you are going to do a build, you also must download, if you're not using one of our spreadsheets that helps you track your like weight trends, you must download Happy Scale or Libra, a weight trends app that says, hey, your 30-day trend line is 0.3. All right. Because we don't care about your week over week. I don't care about your day over day. Because also in a build, you have a little bit more caloric flexibility. So you're like, oh, cool. I can go to the movies tonight. I can make popcorn work. Well, popcorn's really salty and full of carbs. And if we're doing it at 8 o'clock at night in the movies, it's going to show up in a way in the scale. And so rather than looking at week over day to day or week over week, we got to look at that 4-week trend line, especially for clients who have really big swings around your cycle. Like it is going to look like some big waves and dips. And you just have to hold on and really look at all those other areas we just talked about. Like, are you setting PRs in the gym? How is your biofeedback? Or all those, how's your performance? Like, are all those are in line? Like, you're just going to buckle that seatbelt and hold on. Because you also have those weight fluctuations and maintenance, but it probably didn't freak you out as much. You're like, well, it all works out at the end of the day. But as soon as you go into a build, you're like, oh, am I gaining too much? When really it's no changes in the amount of fluctuations you have. It's just a little bit amplified because we're now focused on building and gaining weight.
Yes. Yeah. Those, thank you for talking about that. Cause yeah, women specifically, like you said, with our cycle, it's just week over week, we retain different amounts of water, and then going out to eat, maybe you had more sodium than usual. And that can really screw with our heads. So that was a great thing to bring up. And yeah, you can't build as much muscle as you'd like. Unfortunately, that would be cool if it was like a pound a week, but it takes a lot more time to do that. And I was just listening to Alan Aragon on a podcast, and he's like, if you're building 1 pound of muscle a month, that's like crazy. Like that's really impressive. So yeah, it's slow, and the trends are the important thing. I mean, same with fat loss. There will be some days or the scale might jump up, but the same thing, we're looking at the trends over time. Is for every 4 for, I guess, the average like 2, 3, 4 weeks is the trend line downward. If that's the case, then there's nothing to worry about. So kind of same thing.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing where we, especially like in a fat loss, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 week trend line. Build minimum 30 days. And for those of you, like especially ladies here, if you are somebody who suffers from like a PMDD or extreme fluctuations around your cycle or have a very stressful lifestyle, we may be looking at it at 60 days, to be honest. We have to look at this big arcing trend line because we're talking about 0.2 to 0.4 per week, right? So you're like, am I slightly trending up less than a pound in a month? That is a very finite data point. And if you have lots of variability going on in your life or lots of variability going on the scale, we go, okay, we might need to weigh this metric a little bit less as long as we know that our food's in the right place. And along with that too, when you're thinking about like as a navigating scale things, is 50-50 chance that you probably gain 2 pounds your first week. So like mentally prepare for that. Because we're adding 100 calories to like 25 grams of carbs. I have a lot of women, 50-50, can't tell you. But if you are the kind of person, because everybody listening to this podcast probably dieted once, if you're the kind of person who drops 2 to 3 pounds your first week of dieting, you are going to be the kind of person who gains 1 to 2 pounds the first week of your build. That's just a trend. I see it. I've seen it across 500 data spreadsheets of clients. Like, it is a thing. So if you are quick to lose, you're usually quick to jump up with a little extra glycogen because you just added 25 grams of carbs, probably a little bit more than that. You might have been getting a little excited and added 50 grams of carbs. Well, 50 grams of carbs is going to hold 200 grams of water along with it. That's 250 total grams in your GI tract, which is a pound. Maybe half pound. Either way.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I did grams to 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. That was a quarter kilogram. So it's a half pound, plus then you have the food that it actually is. So like you had an apple, that also comes with a lot of volume too. So as you're thinking about those things, like be prepared to be like, okay, if I'm sitting at 150 pounds right now, I will be starting my build at 152. And then I'm looking for that 0.2 to 0.4 trend line or 0.5 trend line. Like I need to kind of mentally prepare. But again, remember, the minute you come off that build, you got a deficit, that 2 pounds goes away right away because that's mostly just water holding on your system.
Yeah, and I think I'm one of those. So I'm trying to find my top end of maintenance right now with my coach, and the scale went up like a couple pounds. And I was like, because I have a powerlifting competition that I need to be a certain weight for. So I'm like, oh no. And he's like, oh, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay, that's good. But that makes sense. Because every week we've been adding like 25 grams of carbs. So there you go. So how long do you recommend doing a build?
So I would say for your first go round, I highly recommend a minimum of 12 weeks for everybody. So there's no magic behind 12 weeks. However, it's enough time to actually do it to know one if you did it. So let's say we start and you're one of these people who's been consistently under eating. Like Emma hasn't even found her top end of maintenance yet. Like how long have you been adding carbs?
For actually quite a few weeks, I'd say. We went a little low my last week of my deficit just to push it a little bit. Probably 7 weeks.
Okay.
I'm at like 2,800 calories.
Yeah.
Like today I was like 170. I'm like 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
So
Emma has been testing for 7 weeks. Let's just say that, one caveat I'll say is I do recommend that you have 4 weeks, that collateral fattening we talked about, 4 weeks between the end of a deficit and the start of pushing your calories up into a build. Like you've been testing maintenance this entire time, no big deal. But give yourself that 4 weeks of actually sitting on maintenance before you transition to a build phase. But I do find for many people their first time, they add, the 100, 150 calories first time, nothing happens. 3 weeks later, we add another. And they might not get into the build until 6 or 8 weeks into this. And we're saying we are going to commit to 12 weeks. You're like, okay, well,
wow.
we only really got 4 to 6 weeks of building, but now we know where that top end of maintenance is. And so I say commit to 12 weeks, the bare minimum, just so you actually figure out that data point for you. And we have had, a number of clients come through in our cohorts and they don't actually end up gaining any weight. the entire time. You're like, okay, well, you were so under eating. We started at 600 calories. You got to 22. Nothing happened. And I'm like, well, now you know. But what I say, so let's go 12. The max amount of time you should spend in a build is about 10 months. So the reason why is we do have, if you listen to Alan Aragon too, I highly recommend. He talks about this point where you get to about 10% of body weight loss or 10% body weight gained. Those statistics I was quoting about like majority lean tissue or losing majority fat mass, they start to just go a little squirrely at those 10% points. And while we don't have like a specific research reason for this, it's shown enough anecdotally that it's worth noting to go, hey, like if we keep pushing beyond that 10% body weight gain, so for Emma's case, 17 pounds, granted, I have only had 2 clients ever actually gain 10% of their body weight in one go. So usually there's a calendar reason or a lifestyle reason, or you're like, Laura, I said I would gain max 10 pounds. I am done. I'm out. The 2 clients who did the 10% are very, very small people who it was 10 pounds for them because they're, 12 pounds because they have a lot of muscle to gain and they're in that newbie phase. I'm like, cool, like we might as well go because you have nothing else to do and there is no cutting to reveal muscle that isn't there. Like you got to gain some weight and we're going to do that. So, generally speaking, a lot of people find a sweet spot like 16 to 20 weeks. I say that you start to psychologically is the number one reason I have people bail. They're like,
that makes sense.
I'm feeling a kind of way. And then we go to the cut. They're like, oh, I wish I had built longer. And then we do it again. So, but for the most part, I'd say 12 is the bare minimum, just so you can get the experience under your belt to be like, what does it look like? And how can I reap the benefits of also understanding how to eat consistently every day? It's a lot easier to learn how to get your protein in when you have a bigger calorie budget. So like 12 weeks would be the bare minimum. I think everybody is, in my opinion, if you're building out your year, as much time as you don't have in fat loss should be dedicated to a muscle build if your calendar or schedule allows.
That makes sense for sure. Trying to think of any other questions that I have or that somebody might have. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you think would be important for us to address?
Yes, I'll probably add one more thing from a programming standpoint, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. We just talked a lot about food, and while the food is important, there are kind of 2 very important other buckets here, or 3 very important buckets. So like if your food is in check, great. Stress recovery programming. So stress, like guys, if you are stressed out of your mind and you're not sleeping, or you are like, I can barely focus at the gym because like work is consuming me, or I've got this big personal issue happening, this is not the time to be building. Your body is focused on other resources than recovery. So if your stress is out the wazoo, like we got to get that in check before we can proceed with the build. Recovery, you got to be able to be sleeping. Okay. If we are not sleeping, the odds of the muscle building process happening overnight are much lower. And so like we got to be working on, again, the stress and recovery go hand in hand, but those 2 pieces do need to be in play. Or we're not going to be optimizing those muscle, that like rate of gain to being as much muscle as you can be. But most importantly is you have to be picking a program that has you training close to failure frequently and progressively. I have a lot of people come in from popular programming companies that maybe have multiple phases in their programming, but the phases oscillate between like a strength cycle and then a hypertrophy cycle and then maybe like a metabolic cycle. So super high reps and super low reps. And unfortunately, both super high reps and super low reps are not super great for being in a build phase. So if we are training really, really low reps, you're trying to find 1 rep maxes here, we're not really getting adequate volume for muscle building. And also, it is really hard to assess how close to failure we're working when you're doing 1 rep. You pick up 1 rate, you're like, So actually Stronger by Science also put out a different one, but essentially there is data that says you can build muscle between 3 and 50 reps. Well, that's all great, fine and dandy, but you have to also be able to assess failure and how close you are to failure in that rep range. And what we do know is that people are much better at assessing failure in the 6 to 12 rep range than they are below 5 reps or above like 15 reps. Because above 15 reps, if you're doing lateral raises, you're like, am I getting close to failure or am I just dying because the set is 2 minutes long? You're dying because it's 2 minutes long. So I would highly recommend that you are following a periodized hypertrophy focused program. That doesn't mean people can't build muscle doing the other ones, but if you are newer to lifting and you want to make sure that you are not leaving any gains on the table, strongly recommend a hypertrophy based program that progressively overloads you and for the most part is training close-ish to failure across the training cycle. So whether you're using like reps from failure or RAR or RPE, that over your 4 to 8 week cycle that it progresses closer and closer to failure and you are pushing yourself every week. Like don't eat that 1.5 Oreo per day and then just show up to the gym and lift the exact same weights and reps. You're like, well, it's probably not going to do much for you. You want to make it hurt a little bit and go, can I beat last week's numbers? And if you're in a build and things are going right, 80% of your workouts, you should be feeling like Wonder Woman. You should be like, I'm stacking PRs on this movement. Like, this is great. I got a little, depending on what training app you use, I got a little trophy or a little star. Like, woohoo. Whatever that looks like for you, you should be pushing hard in the gym. And so picking a program that aligns with your goals is imperative so that you are having the frequency and training stimulus that goes along with your 100 to 200 calorie surplus. Make sure that we are making the most of this build phase.
That totally makes sense. So how do you usually like program that for a client? Is it like full body splits, upper lower splits, 4 days a week, 2 days a week?
My personal preference is 4 days a week, upper lower splits. Full body is really tough, guys, especially when you're newer to training, you're in the newbie to intermediate phase. Full body's probably fine because you're like, okay, I can go in and push. But the more intermediate or late intermediate you get, the more you're bringing to every workout. Because when you're a new person to lifting, you're like, oh, like the deadlift, it comes right off the floor. And then you add 50 pounds in your first 5 weeks because you're getting better. Your neurological stimulus is better. But as you get better and better at deadlifting, you're like, oh, I know that I'm using exactly the movements or the muscles I'm trying to use. Like the stimulus is much harder. And so when you think about how much volume do I need in a full body workout, well, that full body workout has to be 90 minutes if I'm adequately going to hit, my quads, glutes, hamstrings, chest, back, shoulders, arms. Like that's a lot of volume and it's very mentally fatiguing. So I find for most people doing an upper lower split or a push pull leg split, it really doesn't, I'm going to say it doesn't matter. It does somewhat matter, but one, find the program that works for you. So I have people following a number of different programs. I do write programming, but I also have clients that hey, I really like this other guy's program. I'm like, cool. He writes great programming. I think there's a lot of really good people in the space who do it, but finding a split that works for you where generally you're getting about 2 times-ish a week frequency, or even call it 2 times every 8 days. So for example, let's say you're following a upper lower split, but you miss a day and you roll it over to the next day. Well, you really did 4 workouts over 8 days, right? If you moved it from a Friday to so I think if you have something like an upper lower split, that works out pretty well for most people because they're also time dependent. They're like, okay, full body sounds great, but I can't even carve out 90 minutes to be in the gym, let alone the 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes to get back. So my personal preference that, plus then I don't have to think about doing so many working sets in one workout.
Yeah, once you get up there, they take really long, and
yes.
Recovery days are really crucial. So something I used to do was I would just split up the workouts, but then I wasn't recovering enough and I just had a lot of inflammation. And so switching to 4 days a week has been game changing.
Yes.
And it's nice to have off days. So.
Yeah. My laundry has to get done at some point. And so,
right?
Okay, I do actually have one more thing I'll add to this. So it's nice to have off days, guys. We still got to eat in the surplus in the off days because MPS spikes 48, maybe 72 hours. So if you work out on a Friday and you take Saturday and Sunday off, you are still building muscle Saturday and Sunday leftovers from Friday workout. So if you cut you're like, oh, no, I'm not lifting. I got to cut my calories back on Saturday and Sunday. Well, wait a minute. You just hamstrung yourself on some of the gains that you could be making those days. So eating in a bit of a surplus every single day of the week is my personal preference. One, it also teaches you less confusing. You have the same targets 7 days a week, makes it easy. But the other 2 things I'll add in there is that, again, teach you, recovery. And then just, it creates a better relationship with food. There's no reason to be cutting yourself short on those things. Again, like if you're only in this, like if you told him like, I'm okay to build, but I'm only gonna do 12 weeks. Well, then let's make it effective for 12 weeks. Don't do 7 weeks. So don't drag it out for 12 weeks, but really only eat a surplus 7 weeks of it. If you only eat like on your lifting days. So the recovery piece is crucial. And also like, we don't live in a vacuum. Like I just said, I'm gonna be doing a ton of laundry on my rest days because it's got to get done at some point. I'm not laying in my bed for an hour that I would have been at the gym. Like there was stuff getting done and walking the dogs and doing the things. Like you guys, like it's not like you're not burning calories. You're just doing different stuff that you're not tracking on your watch on your rest days.
Yes. Yeah, definitely still get your steps in. That's important. Do the other things. Walk your dogs. But yeah, thank you. This has been very educational. I'm sure the listeners got a lot from this. I mean, there's a lot of crap out there. And so I'm really glad that you're able to come on and share all this awesome information. So usually I like to end the podcast with you saying like, or I guess giving you the floor to say whatever you'd like, based on the conversation. And then, where can our listeners find you? So what would you like to leave our audience with?
I'm just going to say, guys, if you're not gaining, you're losing. So if you are somebody with big body composition goals, spending a little time in a build every year is only at least going to help you gain back what you lost in your fat loss phases. And so that would be the smallest amount I'd recommend is that everybody do one once for a little bit every year so you can regain anything you lost. But you guys can find me on Instagram at Laura Justine Savino. And that's probably the easiest place. And it links to all the other stuff if you're interested. So
sweet. I'll tag that in the show notes. And if you guys enjoyed the episode, please rate it, tag us on social media, share it to somebody who you know should bulk. Thanks for listening if you made it to the end. And I hope you guys have a great one. Catch you on the next one.